Yo, what's up, guys? It's Topics here, and I have a plus 15 Floodgate commentary for you. We're banging out these commentaries, I know. So, um, I want to talk about this first pull as well, the gather on this first pull. So, as you can see, I charged to that first pack, thunderclapped, and then I popped Avatar right away so that I could Thunder Blast, because you get an automatic Thunder Blast proc when you pop Avatar. Um, and I just did that to get a ton of aggro on this pack, because this 5-pack is the one that you'll commonly lose aggro on because it's the first thing you've pulled. So by the time you get around to everything, your DPS might have started hitting this and you'll lose aggro. So that's kind of why I do it that way. Then I'm going to jump up on this ledge. I'm going to shield charge over here, leap over here, and throw my Ravager here. The reason I threw my Ravager there is because it's going to follow me as I make my way to mid, and that's kind of where I want it spinning. And then the rest of the stuff I kind of just body pull. Like I'm over here, I'm just body pulling this, and then you see I'm holding my AoE kick until everything is in, and then I AoE taunted or AoE kicked. You don't really need to save that for cast, because these two surveyors only cast like it's pretty slow. It's better to save the AoE taunt to actually establish aggro here. And then you're just popping all cooldowns, focusing the Shredder. As a tank, there's not really much going on here. Just make sure you keep your mitigation up, pop a defensive if you feel like you're taking a lot of damage. We're going to skip here. So the next pull, I do want to talk about this. So some routes go over here and grab this 4-pack. I don't think that's good. Not only is it awkward to kind of go over here and drag them down the stairs, it just makes the pull take a lot longer, and it makes you unable to pull this whole platform. But if the quicker you can pull this whole platform, the better for time save. So I'm just going to jump right down here, throw an axe over there, grab these. And as you can see, now that it's only 5 of them, and I don't have that 4-pack at the top of the stairs, I'm like pretty comfortable going right into the Architect right away. So I'm going to go into the Architect, and then I'm going to throw axes at these loader bots to get them over into the pole. And then as soon as the scaffolding is down, I'm going to drag the Architect a little bit back so that I could pull the other 3 guys. Just trying to stabilize the pole a little bit. Okay. So now the pole's stabilized. I'm getting these other guys here. And the aggro on these guys can be really, really shaky because you're kind of pulling them from far. So just really make sure you're taunting and throwing your axe at them. And then, yeah. Then it's just prioritizing the Architect here, and we're going to skip. So, okay, now that pull, okay, this pull is like almost done. I shouldn't have skipped. Obviously, you're going to open this canister, and now the route that I'm doing, because I skipped that 4-pack at the top of the stairs that was over here, it does involve some crabs. Now, these crabs do basically nothing. They do explode on death, but as long as you don't pull too many of them, the dot is definitely manageable. So I'm pulling 2 crabs here. I actually was going to pull those, but they're too close together because I only want 1 pack. So I'm actually just going to pull these first, wait for those to space out a bit, and then grab the rest of those. And then there's no rush to get these pulled up to the next Architect, because that's where I'm going. You just want to make sure that you get your kicks off. Because a harpoon on a high key can one-shot someone. So we're kicking that. And then I have AoE kick up here in a second. I'm going to send it. Okay, I sent it there, which is nice because I sent it here. It's a 6-second silence, so that should get them almost all the way in. Yeah, you see how far it got them? Okay, see how hard that hit? We had a harpoon go off there, and it literally chunked the feral for like 70% HP on a 15. So I think like on a 17 is probably one-shot you. Anyways, we're just going to kill the scaffolding and then prioritize the Architect. Kicking the harpooners one at a time. They're desynced, so you're only ever going to get one of those casts at a time. And then you can send stops on the plant Siphoriums, because those are going to drop bombs. See these bombs here? You can stop those so that those don't get dropped, but this platform's pretty big. You have a lot of space to work with. So I'm going to skip this. Okay, this next pull here. One thing I want to say quickly is you got to be careful going up these stairs because you can aggro this pack over here. So just be careful and you hug the left side here. All right, this next pull. it's very, very common for DPS or healers to rip aggro on this pull if they don't know like which way you're going. Typically, I like to leap over here and grab this far pack and kind of pull it back here, because once I'm here, I can just throw axes at these contractors or whatever. But it's not uncommon for like your healer and DPS to like walk this way and accidentally pull these. I don't know, just throwing that out there. It happens to me a lot. But yeah, you're gonna want a defensive going into this pull. You see, I kind of just body pull those, and then I throw my Ravager over here to get those. If you have Ravager available here, it's really helpful for gathering, because this is a really spaced out gather. So yeah, that gather worked out pretty nicely. And then yeah, it's just dodging the saws or the blades and kicking the surveyors. You can spell reflect this flamethrower, by the way, and I would actually recommend it because it's gonna reflect a bunch of damage back on the shredder. So literally pop spell reflect and step in front of the flamethrower to get at least a reflect every time you have it off. So anyways, we're gonna skip this and we're gonna go into second boss. I don't know if there's really anything to talk about here. It hasn't changed since last season. The tank buster, if you even want to call it that, from Prot, the wallop, it barely does anything to Prot Warrior because it's fully physical. So yeah, I guess the only thing is just make sure that you're keeping Prot and Quick Fuse together as a tank, and just make sure as a tank that you're, you know, aiming at the bombs and getting them. But other than that, pretty straightforward, simple boss, hasn't changed much. Okay, so we finished the second boss. I want to talk about this next pull because the setup for this next pull is very important. You have to do it a certain way, otherwise it'll be very messy. So again, I'm pulling 2 crabs in with this pull just because we need them for percentage. So grabbing these 2 closest crabs here, and I'm just getting a little bit of aggro on them. And then what I'm going to do is I always leap up here because depending on where the patrol is, the patrol sometimes is blocking the stairs. But if I leap up here, I don't really have to worry about that. So even though it's not by there, I always leap up here anyway. Okay, and now you want to pull both of these first before you pull this, because you want all of these guys following you to where you're going to fight these snipers, wherever these snipers are. So I think I throw like 2 axes, another axe, and then I go and meet in the middle here where I'm going to fight these demolitionists, and that's kind of how I set up this pull. So this pull, you have to kick the snipers. They are desynced though, so you're only ever going to have to kick 1 at a time, and then you just want to stop the reload that also goes off from the demolitionist there. That's the only thing you really need to do in this pull, is stop the reload and kick the trick shot. Other than that, it's just dodging stuff, so very manageable pull. If you're a 1-minute class or 1.5-minute class, you probably could send CDs here. If you're a 2-minute class, you probably want to hold for boss. So we're going to skip this. Now I'm going to pull this 4-pack up here into boss, just, you know, for some extra funnel. And these ads don't really do much. The hyenas are basically, they basically only hit the tank, and then the soldiers also just put a magic debuff on the tank, so easy for a DPS. Now also, I would say if Big Mama's like down here, I would actually wait until the boss patrols back over here, because you actually want to start on this side. And the reason why is because I'm going to be pulling more ads in that are like behind me on this platform after, and it's going to be easier for me to pull them if I'm down here. Now I will say, you do not want to start anywhere past this line right here, okay? You can start in this corner, and that's about as far as I would go. You can actually aggro these 2 snipers if you cross this line and you're kind of playing too much to the edge. So just play in this corner and no further than that. But anyway, we're lusting, big damage, setting all our cooldowns, pot, everything. The only thing I would say is if your group is doing this right, they should be stacking here to bait the drones against the wall. And then they should be taking the frontal out to mid, like away from the group. And then as a tank, you have this Electro Crush. Basically, you're going to pop Spell Reflect and Shield Wall for every single one of them. You should have a defensive for everyone. If for some reason you don't have Shield Wall, you can Last Stand or maybe Demo Shout if you're going to have Demo Shout to kind of reduce the damage. But you basically want to combine Spell Reflect with a different defensive that you have every time. And then you should be able to live it, no problem. I would save Health Pot if you like get low or something like that. I would not use health pot for the tank buster. That's just me personally. So we're just gonna see how this fight plays out. So this guy takes it right through the group for some reason. But yeah, don't do that. Put it out in mid where there's no one standing. And yeah, another Electro Crush. I actually had Spell Reflect for that one, and it seemed to be pretty fine on a 15, so... Anyways. Okay, so he's doing the AoE, and usually about like a couple seconds left in the AoE burn, I go and grab more ads. So you see there's like 2 seconds left. I go over here and grab these other 2 Contractors. Just more funnel. And yeah, rinse and repeat. I see Electro Crush coming up. I'm probably going to do Spell Reflect and Shield Wall, yep. And so I'm going to skip this. Okay, so I need to show you guys this, okay? So there is 2 ads up on this platform that I'm going to pull. And I want to show you something. Do you see how they kind of disappear? Ignore that. That's literally just a bug. I don't know why the game does that. If you walk up over here and do anything, you'll aggro them, so... And the mistake I made is I turned my back here, and I think I get hit in the back. Yeah, so all that was me getting hit in the back. Do not do that. Just backpedal or leap away or something, but do not do that. But anyways, I'm going to grab these ads and meet the group over into this corner with Big Mom, and we'll start kiting back the rest of the platform. Anyway, I don't need to see the rest of this fight. So after this fight, I'm going to go click this box, and then the next gather... Oh, I have to show you guys this one too, this one. So I would actually say in my route, I'm not even capping, in my route, this is probably the hardest pull of the entire dungeon. It's very easy to wipe on this pull, there's a lot going on. So I'm going to walk you guys through it. So I'm getting these 5 loader bots, making sure I have aggro before I keep going. Getting these 2 guys again, doing a couple globals. And then as I go into this Blood Warper, you want to Spell Reflect the first one. So you see I already have Spell Reflect up. The reason for that is I don't want to have to stand here and kick it. I want to grab the rest of those Contractors over there. So they kick it anyway, but I could have reflected it anyway. I keep going. I'm going to tag these Contractors with an axe. And then you want to kind of meet in the middle where all these ads that you pulled from the stairs are going to be meeting you guys. You want to have a defensive ready for this first Warp Blood cast, like as everything's gathering, because it's going to do a lot of damage, and you'll see this in a second. I actually didn't pop a defensive here, so this is a misplay on my part. I should have popped a defensive while the Warp Blood is going out. I'm not sure what the warrior died to here. I'm assuming it's aggro, and the warrior should have just held sending CDs a little bit longer. Oh, I can see. Yeah, I think he ran in here and got tagged with some of these that I didn't quite have aggro on. Again, if you're a DPS player, you should never be standing on the side that the tank has ads coming in, because there's not much threat on them. Like, he should have just stayed here. But anyways, so the Warp Blood's going off. So the thing about this pull, you have a couple things. You have the sniper that needs to be kicked, the Blood Blast that has to be kicked from the Blood Warper, and then this Demolitionist needs to be stopped. So, and amongst that, you're taking a lot of tank damage, and you have to dodge a bunch of stuff. Now, you can reflect the Blood Blast from the Blood Warper, like every 3rd cast, but the other ones do need to be kicked because they do chunk you a lot. And as you see, like I'm literally almost dying here. I'm on death's doorstep. Cheat death is procced. I have no defensive, no health pot, so I literally popped Stone Form for 10% DR in a last ditch effort to live. And I mean, I'm just so unbelievably low. But again, I misplayed at the start of this pull when I did not send a defensive, and I took a ton of damage from Blood Warp initially. I think we also had a couple casts go off. But anyway, yeah, very dangerous pull. However, in a coordinated group, it's really only 2 kicks, and then you could just rotate stops for the Demolitionist reload. And the stops will also hit the sniper. So the reason I'm moving so much is because I'm trying to maybe get like... it's basically like a kiting maneuver, just like a slight kite to try and maybe negate a couple melee swings from these guys to live. So if you ever see me like rotating a lot or maybe backpedaling a little bit, it's because I'm trying to mitigate a couple melee swings from hitting me, because if you are out of range from those physical hits, they will miss you, and it's you know, it's kind of a way of not taking a bunch of damage. So anyway, this next pull, I do have one more crab. This is our last crab of the dungeon. So I'm going to grab this crab, and then we're going to pull all these kelps. This is also a very dangerous pull if stops are not used right. Because when it does the jettison kelp, it does a ton of AoE damage. You see the group getting ticked down here. So if too many of these, I would say if there's more than 2 jettison kelps going off at the same time, it's probably going to kill your group within a few seconds. So as soon as you see more than 1 going off, you need to send a stop. So there's 1 going off, there's 2. At this point, we should be sending a stop. You'll see a couple of people overlap stops, which that happens in pugs, which is the dangerous part, which is why on Floodgate and high keys, you need to be calling stops on this pull. I was able to get my AoE kick off on all those casts, which is nice. This pull is really good for that. You only have to kick these like every 15 seconds, so it's not bad. It's more important that you use your stops than it is kick these. But you obviously want to get the kick too if possible. And as you see, we had like too many jettison kelps going off at the same time. The monk died because right here we have no stops left. Probably because we overlapped because this is a pug. So anyway, the next pull is I'm actually pulling these 3 divers in with boss for funnel. These divers are pretty easy to manage because there's only 1 kick at a time since they're desync. The scariest part about doing this, I would say, is the bombs. You do not want to be hit with a bomb if you're like tethered to someone, because you're going to immediately snap back down to them and take damage. It can also be sketch and like pull you into a frontal or pull you into one of the waves, so do not be afraid to send stops on these guys so that they do not plant their bombs. You can see here I shockwaved. Someone else stopped it with leg sweep there. And no bombs end up going down, which is the goal. And we successfully pulled that into boss. The only other thing is making sure on Sludge Claws here that you do press a defensive. You'll see it chunked me and puts a bleed on me, so you want to have a defensive for every one of those. Other than that, moving left is kind of the unspoken rule of this boss. As a pug, you just always move left to dodge, no matter what it is. Whether it's a wave or the frontal, you always move left. And yeah, this is a Lust boss. Lust is coming up in like 40 seconds, which I'm assuming they'll send when we get there. Let's see. Another Sludge Claws, up to defensive. See if we Lust in a few seconds here. Okay, so we didn't end up lusting, which is really weird, because if we would have lusted, we could have gotten another lust in this dungeon, but for some reason we held. Anyway, this next pull, by the way, hallelujah, there's no bubbles. Anyways, gathering all these on the next pull, making sure this electrician gets kicked. And the one thing I will say about this is because there's 3 soldiers, they do put a magic dot on you. If you're not careful, this will stack up too high and you'll just fall over. So please be careful. Hopefully your healer can dispel you. If not, you can just dwarf them off. I would dwarf or get a dispel once you hit around 10 stacks, because that's when it gets dangerous. Either way, we're kicking this electrician over here. You can also stop them, stun them, and then I'm waiting for the other one that's coming in behind us, and I'm just going to AoE kick it in so that it walks all the way in. And yeah, so I just dwarfed off the stacks because they were getting high. And I would say once you've killed off, once the pack is like maybe half dead, or you've killed off a caster, as you can see, we've already killed off a caster and the pack is half dead, you can pull in the big guy. The jump starter is in this route. I think most groups are pulling this jump starter now that you don't have, that you're like, you basically have to make up count somewhere else, because the routing in this dungeon has changed a lot after the changes they made. You can see here I'm asking for a dispel. I don't know, the healer's not paying attention. Nobody else here has a magic dot on them. 13 stacks. It's getting very scary. Okay, the soldiers are dead, so I'm not going to get any more stacks, but like it gets very scary. Anyway, we finish off the jump starter. The next pull is pretty standard. You do have to do this pull for time, by the way. What I usually like to do is I gather these 2 inspectors, and then I kind of let them do 1 or 2 frontals, and then I go into the next pack. I just like to allow my team to get their bearings. So, and I always like to have AoE kick up to gather this at first, because silencing these 2 guys to start the pull makes it very easy for everyone to, again, kind of get their bearings. So I silence that. And here we go. And then this can be dangerous in pugs because the jump starter is doing an AoE to the group. So if any of these bolts go off during the AoE, like, your team can get one shot. So I think we actually do a really good job here. We actually don't end up losing anybody that whole pull. Last pull here, 2 jump starters. So this is very scary for the tank. Obviously there's a ton of AoE damage going out for the group as well, but this spark slam is a tank buster. And it's not that bad when there's only 1 of them, but when there's 2 of them, it can get pretty sketchy. So you need to press a defensive for every one of these, but because there's 2 of them hitting you, you want to make sure your defensive overlaps both of them. So for example, let's say this jump starter is casting the tank buster. I'll wait until right before it hits me to press shield wall. That way the shield wall also covers the other tank buster. Same thing with like demo shout. I would demo shout like at last second so that the DR also covers the other tank buster. Don't be afraid to health pod here, or do whatever you need to live. And then I'm just slowly kiting back because, you know, I want to start the RP on the boss as well. So we finish this off. We got about just under 5 minutes. And we're going to last boss. There's only a couple things we really need to talk about as a tank on this boss. This AoE doesn't do anything to you. What am I trying to say here? Never press a defensive here. Spell reflect, shield wall, health pot. You should never press a defensive during that because you need them for the thunder punch after. So for the thunder punch, I always do spell reflect with shield wall, or you can do spell reflect with demo shout or last stand. But I always do 2 of those because it does hit hard and leaves like a small magic dot on you. And it also knocks you back. So every time you get hit with thunder punch, make sure your back's up against this console. You can also go up against like this thing here, or there's another console on the other side of the room. The only other thing as a tank is making sure you're positioning the boss in a way that your group can easily have their sparks into these puddles. So because I see where the puddles are, I drag the boss to this side of the room so that we can all kite our sparks into these puddles in the middle. So my spark spawned basically right on me, so I'm kiting over here. I can see someone took this puddle, so now I'm rushing to get over here. I can see someone took that puddle as well, so now... So thankfully I have leap, so I'm going to leap over here, I think. So the reason I leap over there is because it's going to give me a good angle to kite that spark, and I see that thunder punch right here is about to come out, and I know I'm going to get knocked, so I need to hurry up and get my back against this console, because I get knocked back. Also, double defensive to that, so that's basically the fight. Just be really careful positioning again. The only way you really die in this fight is if you don't press the defensive for the tank buster, or if you get caught with your spark and get stunned. Other than that, it's basically rinse and repeat, and that is the key. Timer was really tight on this. We did have 4 deaths. I'm not sure if this damage is great. It's really early in the season. I feel like the damage is okay. Again, this is just one of those dungeons that's going to be a DPS check. You're gonna need to play really clean with like very minimal deaths and huge damage on this dungeon to actually time high keys. So anyways, that is a commentary. Leave a like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed. Really appreciate all the support. And I think we have only 2 commentaries left, I believe. We have Gambit and Halls, I think. So we'll see you guys in those ones. Peace.